Colleagues, welcome to today's CLC Lecture Series titled Towards a More Inclusive Singapore, Designing Dementia-Friendly Neighbourhoods. I'm Ren Ai from the Centre for Livable Cities. The centre was jointly established by the Ministry of National Development and the Ministry of the Environment and Water Resources in 2008 to distill, create, and share knowledge on livable and sustainable cities. The CLC Lecture Series is one of the platforms through which urban thought leaders share best practices and exchange ideas and experiences. In today's session, we are honoured to have the following with us. Ms. See Yen Theng, Chief, Caregiving and Community Mental Health Division of the Agency for Integrated Care, Dr. Cheong, Associate Professor of Architecture and Sustainable Design at the Singapore University of Technology and Design, Mr. Yip Hon Wen, Advisor to Yio Chu Kang Grassroots organizations, and Ms. Hsien Theng, Research Director at the Centre for Livable Cities. In today's session, we will start off with opening remarks by Mr. Hugh Lim, Executive Director of CLC, who will also provide the context and objectives of the Dementia-Friendly Neighbourhood Study. Next, as an inspiring case study for all, Advisor Yip Hon Wen will then share about Yio Chu Kang's experience in being transformed into Singapore's first dementia-friendly constituency. Dr. Cheong will then share about the design thinking principles generated from the research study that contribute to building a dementia-friendly neighbourhood. Last but not least, Ms. See Yen Theng will share about how creating a dementia-friendly Singapore takes the combination of both hardware, programming, and hardware infrastructure. After the series of presentations, there will be a panel discussion and a Q&A session with the audience, which will be moderated by Ms. Hsien Theng. Now, I would like to welcome Mr. Hugh Lim, Executive Director of CLC, to give his opening remarks. ED, please.
Thank you, and a very warm welcome to friends and colleagues in the room. Welcome to our first CLC lecture for 2024. Today's lecture aims to grow mindshare on planning and designing dementia-friendly neighbourhoods as a follow-on from a research study which was conducted by CLC in partnership with the Agency for Integrated Care, AIC, the Singapore University of Technology and Design, SUTD, and the Yio Chu Kang Grassroots organization. This study is timely as the number of people living with dementia is expected to almost double by 2030. In fact, as part of the Age Well SG efforts, supporting persons living with dementia is a key aspect of our efforts to provide for an aging population. So one way we can support persons with dementia and their caregivers is by creating dementia-friendly neighbourhoods, which help them remain connected with familiar surroundings and delay the need for institutional care as long as possible. With that, this study sets out to address a key knowledge gap in making our high-rise neighbourhoods inclusive to persons living with dementia. We now have a set of locally validated, evidence-based design guidelines that are relevant to Singapore's high-density context. The study, which focused on a pilot site at Yio Chu Kang, was conducted using a multi-stakeholder participatory approach. We partnered and engaged government agencies like HDB, BCA, MOHT, LTA, NParks, and URA, local stakeholders such as Yio Chu Kang Grassroots, their residents committee, the Ang Mo Kio Town Council, service provider, Tai Hwa Kwan, and most importantly, persons living with dementia and their caregivers to obtain first-person insights on what was needed for a neighbourhood to be dementia-friendly. In fact, I was still in BCA when this study kicked off, and actually I'm very pleased to see how well it has progressed. And I must share with you, even the BCA at that point of time, and BCA looks after the accessibility code in Singapore. Even our colleagues there were not quite familiar and did not really have the expertise into what it entailed for a place to be dementia friendly. So I think through this study, we also all level up our awareness and our knowledge how to transform the neighborhood to be more dementia inclusive. So this study has culminated in the creation of a series of design prototypes in Yio Chu Kang, a research report, and a Dementia-Friendly Neighbourhood Design Guide, all of which were launched on the 2nd of December last year by Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong and Mr. Yip Hon Wen, advisor to Yio Chu Kang Grassroots organization, who is also one of the speakers in today's lecture. So to build on this momentum, CLC is currently working with our partners to scale up adoption across Singapore. We will continue our conversation with stakeholders, and we will share insights through initiatives such as the lecture this afternoon. So I hope the session will be informative for all of you, and it will inspire further action to make Singapore and all our neighborhoods inclusive to all our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Edie. May I now invite Advisor Yip Hon Wen on stage for the first presentation of our lecture. Advisor, please.
Hello, everyone. Oh, for my slides. Wow, this is very loud. Very happy to be back here. This is familiar ground for me. Just to give you a bit of background, I used to work in this building close to 8 years. So I started, in this building I was in MND, so very happy to be back. Started the Municipal Services Office in 2014 at level, I can't remember which level, maybe level 12, if I'm not wrong, in MND itself. And then thereafter immediately joined the Agency for Integrated Care, running the Silver Generation Office, I think 2017 onwards. So brings back a lot of memories, and very happy to see all of you here today, and very happy to share with you the experiences in Yio Chu Kang and what we have done for the dementia-friendly elements. So before I start, there are many of you here today. I hear that there are how many? 240 people here. So how many of you have parents that you take, you take care of? Gone. Roughly sensing the ground. About 30%. Okay, very good. Actually, I think there are more than that. Maybe some of you very shy. Don't raise up your hand. So about 30%. A lot of hands are up. Okay, so I'll make some very, very brief remarks. I'm not a technical expert. Later, got technical expert. You can ask them questions. So I just share with you my experience about what we have done in Yio Chu Kang itself. Let's see. The journey towards being Singapore's first dementia-friendly constituency. Just a fun fact. Yio Chu Kang SMC is the first ever dementia-friendly constituency in the true sense, not only for the public estate, but also for the private estate. So it covers the entire area. Okay. Just share this story with you. You see here two ladies, very senior, Madam Lim and Madam Lim. Okay, they are if you come to my estate, they are common feature around. You go around, you will see them because they live in one of my rental blocks. They move around the estate. They take part in some of the active aging activities in Tai Wah Kwan. They are sometimes at the market and very friendly. I've seen them many times going around the estate, always together, always holding hands. Oh, very loving, right? Can you tell that one of them is a daughter and the other one is the mother? Which one? Okay, this is the daughter, Madam Lim, and that is the mother, the other Madam Lim. Okay, the daughter is close to 80, the mother is close to 100. Okay, I have the blessing and the fortune to be the MP and the advisor of Yio Chu Kang, and now I'm in my third, fourth year in the estate. I have the fortune of seeing them very often, and sad to say, as time progresses, the 3 to 4 years, I can see the cognitive decline of the mother, okay, over the years. And in fact, in recent months, when I spoke to the daughter, she would say, when I see her at the Senior Activity Center. I said, where's your mom? So, oh, she's at home. I said, what happened? Oh, nowadays cannot think properly lah. Yeah, so she's at home resting. Okay? So it's actually very visible. Why I'm sharing this story with you is very visible. Aging is very visible. It happens all around us. This will not be uncommon as we move forward to a super aged society as we approach 2030 and beyond. 2030, 1 in 4 of us will be above the age of 65. Okay, and this is not the only case of a senior looking after someone who's super senior. I just saw another one, 77-year-old daughter looking after a 94-year-old mother. Then you do the math, right? You calculate, the mother had the daughter when she was 17. Both pioneer generation. Not uncommon. Happens, not happens, they are around their estate. Okay? So, so why did we embark on this dementia-friendly constituency project itself? Okay, Yio Chu Kang itself is a very senior estate. Not only in terms of the residents, we have a proportionally high number of seniors, but also the infra is very, very old, very senior. You all know where it is? Don't know. Who stay in Yio Chu Kang SMC? Any resident? Sure got one. Loss of statistics, sure have, but anyway, never mind. Okay, Yio Chu Kang Road is very long, maybe the longest road in Singapore. Okay, compared to the next maybe Commonwealth Avenue West, but Yio Chu Kang Road is very long. Cuts across many different constituencies, but not all are in my SMC, only a small sliver. So if you know Ang Mo Kio well, it is Lentor Estates, the 600 series, the 100 series, and the 200 series. So if you know the 600, 100, and 200 series, these are very, very old flats. People who stay there have been there for at least 30 to 40 years. In fact, the oldest flats in the entire Ang Mo Kio are in my area. Built in 1975, 1976, blocks 211 to 214, okay, 50211, you can go and Google it. They were built before anything else was built. All around were trees and kampongs, okay? So it's a very, very old estate. Residents, as I mentioned, residents aged 65 and above form about 40% of the constituency's population. Okay, quite a big proportion. And we want to, and because of the fact that the place is aging, people and the place itself, we think that it is important to do this dementia-friendly environment, working with agencies like CLC, AIC, HDB, etc., to do a few things. So these are some pictures that what we have done really is to aid in wayfinding. If you have dementia, you may be disoriented when you move around. How do we improve wayfinding? How do we improve recognition of where you are? Things like improving accessibility and safety. You see some pictures here. More ramps, more grab bars. In terms of wayfinding also, we deliberately color the different blocks by zones. Color the different blocks in the same color into different zones. So you can differentiate the different zones. Let's see whether this works. Block numbers are bigger, much bigger, so that when you see, you know the numbers. And then it's not, the block number is not like some funny angle. You know, some areas got some funny angle, or like diagonal. You see before, right? This one we work AIC on it. Make sure it's straight, you can see across and all that. My neighbor, Henry Quack, does even a better job than me. You know, Henry Quack, Kebun Baru SMC, he does even a better job. He go and, I also got to do a bit, but not a lot. He paint murals. Later, I'll show you some murals that we painted. He paint murals on certain blocks, so that paint the angkong there, so that how do I put it? Some of the seniors or those with dementia, they recognize certain things from the past, Ang Ku Kueh or something from the past, that they can remember and rekindle their memory, and they know where they are. So these are some of the things that we do. Okay? Yeah, so I don't know why people like to visit me, but anyway, we have, I just show you some of the, because when they visit, we showcase some of the things that we do. So it's also an effort to get the community together when we do such initiatives. So we also try to be creative. So, you know, like our train system, we are constantly upgrading them, right? So there are old MRT trains that are being decommissioned. So we coordinate with SMRT, get the seats to come in. So these are real MRT seats. Also helps in making sure that, you know, the seniors with dementia issues, they recognize, hey, maybe this is something that is only in this place and not elsewhere, so they know where they are. Then we got the community together to paint murals behind. So this is a mural painting. This is quite interesting. The backdrop is not Yio Chu Kang, what is Mars. So we want to have this, you get the students to come in to have this very creative way of looking at, you know, where do they want to go? They want to go to Mars. Okay? Yep, as I say, we got residents involved, painting murals, getting everyone to chip in and to do their part, painting some of these murals so that people can recognize where they are. It aids them in navigation. Okay, so murals double as signages for rest stops made from OMRT seats. So this is something that we did. It's still there if you all want to come. 612. Okay. The project later, I think Prof. Kheng will share more with you. I know I steal his thunder. This is something that we did with the university as well as CLC, getting residents involved in co-creating some of the dementia-friendly features. Later, he will go more into detail. The interesting thing is this: when we push or when we do initiatives in the community, we want to make sure that it's relevant and not something that I want or whichever government agency wants to do. And this has been a year-long project that we have done, and very well received. And you can see seniors enjoying it, some of the features. We'll go more into details about this. As I say, Madam Lim is here. I don't see her mom at home. Okay, really, that day itself. Yeah. So again, creating very distinct color differences. This is what we call a boy. Very interesting design that we put at the bottom of a flat, which aids in wayfinding. Okay, I don't think you can see features like this in other estates. So this was actually gone through a round of co-creation with residents, 100 over residents. They come together, they let us know what they like to see, what colors they want, and these are some of the features that we have in the community. Okay. Am I over time? No, I'm still okay. So maybe I'll just end my remarks here. I just have 3 points to leave with you. Very happy to take questions later. I thought it's much better if I end early, then we can have more time for Q&A. So maybe as I reflect on this journey with the various agencies that we have gone through, as the first ever dementia-friendly community that is the entire estate, what have we learned? First is context matters. Okay, remember HSBC, this was their tagline, I think no more. The world's local bank. Okay, HSBC is actually a global bank, Yeah, but they say they are the first local bank, and I really like that, which means that when they have a presence in the local community, they make sure that they are able to serve the local needs. So I think what I've learned from this journey, working with CLC, working with the universities, working with the town council, HDB, all that, context really matters. So I think it's important to understand what residents want, what resident needs, and that feedback, those suggestions, the proposal should actually fit into what your agency should do. And I think that is very important. And that's why it's important to go through this process of co-creation, working with different ground stakeholders to come up with things that actually are needed, things in infrastructure that people really want to see on the ground, rather than something from top down from agencies. Okay. Second thing I learned is I can't stress this enough, and this is equally, if not more important, is really the harnessing the strength of networks. Henry Ford once said this, a bit motherhood. If everyone is moving forward together, then success takes care of itself. When we first started this project, it was, I can tell you, it was very, very messy. I can't even remember how many agencies worked with us. Maybe more than 15. Or more than 15. Grassroots, Town Council, HDB, LTA, NEA, CLC, I can't remember, AIC, MOHD, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. Each of them bring certain attributes and certain value adds. And I think it is important to harness the strength of each agency. Okay, and there are hidden resources. We did quite a lot of things in Yio Chu Kang in terms of dementia-friendly elements. I am quite proud to say that I did not spend additional money doing it. Simply because as a part of a network, we can, when we discuss things, hey, you know, when I'm doing this project, maybe there's some cost saving. Can I use it to do certain things? If I time my project with your project, can we include some of these elements within, and so on and so forth? So I think the willingness and the ability to work together is very, very vital. And I mean, if there are agencies here, I will encourage you to constantly work on that, build up the relationship, and helping each other is very, very important, and that will bring a lot of value on the ground, okay? And maybe the last point I want to talk about is that I'm not trying to sell koyo. It may look very, very good, right? But in life, there's always trade-off. There's always trade-off in terms of whatever you do in your personal life. There will always be trade-off. So I think there were trade-offs in the sense that, okay, I think earlier Hugh mentioned about codes, guidelines, and all that, right? We always want to put some of these learnings and lessons into codes, into your BCA codes and all that. But there always be trade-offs in the sense that you put this in, that means something else is taken out. You know what I mean? Everybody want to codify certain things. You want to codify your dementia-friendly elements, that means something else is pushed back. And everybody wants their own criteria, their priorities into the building codes and all that to, you know, for whatever they want to do in the community. Noise, standards, whatever, etc., etc. But in life, we have to make sure that, you know, we to make sure that we prioritize, okay? Then maybe I leave you with the last sub-bullet point. But I mean, if you think that, I circle back to my first slide when you see Madam Lim, and with the other mother, Madam Lim also, who is 100 years old. And if, based on our demographics, I don't think we can change our demographics unless we totally enhance our immigration policy. If that is indeed the Singapore that's going to be, right, in the next 10, 20 years, where we'll be super aged, will we do the right thing as a country? So how well were we prepared for an aging population? If we think that we really need to prepare for an aging population, will we do the right thing? Will we prioritize certain of these codes? Will we make sure that, you know, we will push very hard on some of these policies, both from an infrastructural point of view, both from a health and social care point of view, into things that is in the community? And if we think so, this is the right thing to do for our country, we should go all out, and those in government, you need to do your very best to go and convince your PERMSEC or your ministers to do what is right. Okay? So I'll leave this here, and I look forward to your questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Advisor. Now I would like to invite Dr. Chong King Hua on stage for his presentation.
20 minutes. Try. Okay, I have 20 minutes. I'll try my best. Hi, I'm Keng Hua. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I begin, well, anyway, I can move to the next slides. Dementia-Friendly Neighbourhoods, and I'm representing Singapore University of Technology and Design, SUTD, and I run a lab called Social Urban Lab, in short, called SOLAB. All right, before I begin, can I just have a show of hand? Because I like to know my audience before to know who I'm speaking to. How many of you are architects, planners, designers, and so on? All right. Wow. Okay. Thank you. How many of you are like policy planners, civil servants? Some of you are both, I know. All right, thank you. How many of you are healthcare professional? In a healthcare industry? Anyone? Okay, I think maybe next time we should invite some of them so we can have some exchange. How many of you are just students that still want to learn, or teachers? You know, one lifelong learner, of course. Yeah, everybody is. Thank you, thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. Yeah, so with that, I would like to continue. Is that well, we come from different background, but one day every one of us will grow old, right? Including myself. So what we are doing is also doing for everyone, but also ourselves. When we first started, of course, I don't have the knowledge of dementia. I don't have the knowledge of how to design for a dementia-friendly town or neighborhood. So we have to learn from the expert, and the expert is those who are actually going through that in their life. So we spoke to some of the advocates for dementia. Some of them are early onset dementia, like for example, Emily. Emily has been a great help for us. So we walk with her to understand what is the issues or challenges she faced, and her friends or her colleagues face in this environment that we have, right? So I know some of this intention of the design are really good. It's really to try to help us to identify the place in a more unique manner. But she pointed out to us, like for example, icons like that would be quite difficult for her to decipher, because she's trying to ask, like, what is this fish look like or ball look like things doing here, and what does that relate to me? How does that relate to me? Why is there a fish at the bus stop? What is this thing? Can you guys guess what is this? Sorry, a tree? Yeah? But to her, it looks like an alien. So you say, why is the alien staring at me? So the thing is, as we grow older, or as our brain sort of rewire in a different manner, we may conceive or perceive things in a very different way. So it doesn't mean that everybody will see the same thing or understand the same thing as what we see. And also our context is already very multi-color, multi-sensory, right? So how do we use color in a way that is meaningful and not adding more noise to our environment is something that is very much of a concern. So this is something that we point out. We realize that we cannot just rely on overseas example and apply in our context, because it doesn't really work like that, because we are living in a very high-rise, high-dense, multi-sensory, super complex kind of context. Like what advisors say, context is king. We need to really understand our context. So how do we go about that? So we are very fortunate, we are very thankful for the opportunity invited by CLC and AIC to work on this project. We started with really want to understand our demography much better. So we crafted a design ethnographic approach through a deeper understanding of how the person living in dementia and their caregiver going through this stage will see the world, and therefore we perhaps can find something to learn from there. And we translate that learning to a participatory design workshop with the community to see how it applies in the context. And then we do our data analysis, which is what the researchers will enjoy, behind the computer. And finally, translate all these findings into a prototype and test the prototype. In fact, that's the most difficult part. I'll share with you why. So just a quick snapshot of what we have gone through. We have done 2 exercises. One is called jigsaw puzzle, jigsaw mood board. The other one is a walking audit with 10 pairs of person living in dementia as well as their caregiver. You might think that it's just 20 people. It's not a lot of people. But first of all, I really want to thank AIC and also all the grassroots organizations to help us to actually identify people who live around Yio Chu Kang and able to come out and help us in the research, because PDPA and all the data protection is not so easy to really do recruitment. And finally, to be able to understand each and every one of them actually need to do a lot of deep dive. And in fact, each one of them give us more than 100 data points. So altogether, we have more than 1,000 data points for us to actually evaluate. This is one of the exercise. You know, we have done interview with person living with dementia before. And the interview is not so straightforward because, you know, there's a lot of barrier in communication, whether or not you're using English or even Chinese or other dialects. So we devised a new way. We take pictures of the surroundings where they stay, and we convert this picture into jigsaw puzzle, and then we tell them that let's play a game. Let's do a jigsaw puzzle exercise. Put together the best day in your life, and what does it look like? And so this is the result you can see. Everybody is different. Some is very quiet, you know, they just follow 4 by 3 and give you a puzzle like that. Some is really random. Some just give you 1, some give them 0. So it really depends on all this input that we try to probe and ask the caregiver, why is this chosen and why is it here? And with that, we can do a lot more data analytics and counter with our hypothesis. And with that understanding, we took them out for a walk, and we went to all the places that they actually identify in the jigsaw puzzle, it's jigsaw mood board. So we get able to see, oh, this is the playground you showed us just now, oh, this is the seat that you like the best, and this is the noisy part that you don't like. So we walk around, and then we track where they like to go around their house. Interestingly, you can see most of them do a loop. Even though if it's a linear path, they want to come back in a different, choose a different path to come back. So this is quite natural. We didn't plan for it. We just follow. And this something also gives us some kind of like an insight that see how we can actually translate to design later. And we developed, we adapted Fleming's and Bennett's E2, Environmental Audit 2 into our own walking audit guide and use that for Singapore context. With that, I think I will skip all this data analysis, but you can see that we do a lot of thematic analysis, having all the data points that is coming in, by categorizing all of them in 10 different hypotheses that we have. And these are the 10 hypotheses. So these 10 hypotheses are derived from literature review as well as our own workshop with all the agencies earlier on. 8 of them are from literature review. 2 of them we added is delightful and purposeful. But after the research, we realized that the definition that we set up in the first place has to be revised. It is not exactly what we think it is. Like, for example, safety is not about physical safety, it's about psychological safety, right? Like continuity, a lot of literature highlight that we need to provide facilities, amenities, so that they can continue to live their kind of social and physical kind of life in their daily life. But from our research, we realized that, first of all, they cannot continue the way it is before. They have to realize the fact. They have to accept that, in fact, some of them couldn't accept that. And that has more issues that when you are struggling with that. And after you accept that, you have to adapt. So it's not so much about continuity, it's about adaptability and how the environment can help them to adapt in their daily life. So these are the new kind of redefined characteristics that is validated through our research that we would like to see how we can translate it into our design. This is our first trial, to try to categorize all these 10 characteristics in the way of an experience journey of a person living dementia from the time that they leave their house. First thing that they need to be comfortable with is that the outside world has to be safe psychologically and accessible. If not, they don't even step out of their house. After that, outside of the place, it has to be more legible and familiar to them so they are able to navigate themselves. The place that they want to go has to be delightful and purposeful, so given a source of like motivation why they want to go there in the first place. And to be able to stay in those places, you need to give them more choices and somewhere they can adapt to different kind of behavior and lifestyle. And finally, for them to carry on, the place needs to be more engaging and comfortable. This is our first trial. So with that, we developed some kind of preliminary idea. We tested out with 80 over residents from Yio Chu Kang. Advisor was there too, helping us to engage the residents to gather all these different ideas that, based on the finding and also based on the understanding on the ground. And some of the outcome is to identify some of the pain point, to highlight, for example, this street need to redesign, this place lack of certain amenities and so on. And who are the partners within the town that we can work with. So we identify stakeholders that to collaborate with as well. Then with that, we come up with some preliminary design. I don't want to show you too much because we went through about at least 10 rounds of redesign. It took us quite a while because it's really not easy to translate, check like data into design. And we have the help from NUS Department of Architecture students to help us to engage the residents, as well as some of my students, to see whether they think some of this idea actually helped them or not. Right? At that time, I was in Finland. I was doing my sabbatical, so I couldn't, physically be there to engage. But what I learned from this is that we had to redesign everything all over again. So that is the process that we have been going through. It doesn't mean that once you have the research finding, then you have a 1 + 1 = 2, and that's the design. You have to go through many rounds of iteration and many rounds of reconfirmation with the users, with the community to see whether it actually works before you actually put into the prototype and fabrication. So we go back to our drawing board and say, hey, what do we actually learn from our research that we can actually try to help ourselves, and not just ourselves, but future designer, to translate them into meaningful design. So first insights that we have is that PLWDs and their caregivers have a heightened sense of risk, more than normally all of us would have. They feel very uncertain when, for example, this is actually a road that go into the car park. But the thing is, the signage is actually point towards the pedestrian. The pedestrian had to take care of themselves. Beware the traffic, look left and right before you cross. But there is no sign for the, there's no zebra crossing or anywhere or signage for the vehicle to watch out for the pedestrian. So the priority is for a car. So obviously, the psychological fear is transferred to the pedestrian, in this case, the PLWD themselves. So they feel unsafe. So these are some of the psychological aspect that to us is very simple. We look at it, we take care, we cross, it's fine. But in the environment, it's different. Or if there is a crossing like that, there are curbs along. I mean, there are barrier-free access along there. But when you need to come down from the curb to cross the street. That form another kind of a barrier. So these are the kind of thing that they feel unsafe, and sometimes they have no choice. They just dash across, and sometimes they lead to accident and so on and so forth that we saw in the papers nowadays. So we have to really take care of the heightened sense of risk, and the fact that they need to cross is also because there are other ways that are even more inconvenient that they may not be able to access. So we have to reassess our environment based on that. Second insight is less is more. So earlier I talked about our multi-sensorial kind of hyper context, the hyperdensity context that we have. So if we can actually remove some of the clutter, that will help. So design is not about just adding, it's also about removing. How to help them to clean up, or even about cleanliness of the place. Signage and abstract signage like that, PLWD may not understand. So how do we simplify them, but not to the extent that it becomes too abstract that they don't understand? A place like this, kind of like empty, but you frame a view towards a tree, is somewhere that they can actually enjoy. So we don't actually need a lot of things. We don't really need very complicated design. We just need something that is very simple. Number three, these are many of these activities that we observe, especially these participants. I can't name them, right? So when we visited her house, she showed us all the coloring books that she has done. She was so engrossed into coloring. Some of them, like these participants, she brought us to a place where she used to join the mass exercise, but nowadays she couldn't go by herself, so she has stopped going. So she demonstrated to us how she is doing that. So, but we realized that while they are doing that, the caregiver are able to also find places for themselves. it is actually more important for us to identify things for the caregiver to do so that they have a reason why they want to go out and not just because they want to bring their care recipients out. Because it's very, if you have been caregiver before, there's so many things in your mind, there's so many things that you need to do. Just to go out, you have to bring along maybe 100 things that you need to go through before you even step out of house. So you need to really give them a very, very strong reason why they need to even come out. So if you want to have the support the quality of life for PLWD, we really need to think of the caregiver first. And finally, as we talk about adaptability, first thing is to embrace change, and how can we provide spaces for them to adapt. Some of them, you can see, this is young onset of PLWD. Her husband actually broke down 3 years ago when she was first diagnosed, and the husband went through the depression because he has to adapt. The caregiver has to adapt to quit his job, full-time taking care of the wife, and change entire lifestyle and so on. So how can we help them to adapt in their new lifestyle? So with that, we summarize these 4 insights into these 4 mathematical formulas since I'm from a technological university. A simple formula, plus, minus, multiply, and divide. So all of us will still remember, maybe even when we get dementia one day. Plus, design to strengthen mental map. Minus, design with a minimalist approach. Multiply, design to include wider community, especially caregivers. And divide, design for incremental change. I will go through more detail for each of them, but I want to illustrate how do we translate into some of the prototype design that we show here. So this is Yio Chu Kang Zone 9. This is the boundary. And in the middle, fortunate or unfortunate, we have a secondary school that you cannot go in. But this gives us a very good opportunity to identify a circulation that around the block, as well as around the secondary school. Over here is actually car parks, right? So once we identify this primary road, which we call the path of least resistance, because that's how most of the residents and also PLWD were able to navigate through this loop. So we are trying to define this loop. We identify a few potential space to turn into a lighthouse. So this concept that we borrow is called a lighthouse and buoy. Lighthouse is a place, a purposeful community space as an anchor destination to draw them out of their house. So if you stay here, there's a lighthouse near your house. Every day you can go there, do something, you want to go out. But how to help them to navigate through this, complex streets or corridor design? We create this idea of buoy, those floating ball that you see near the harbor. So this has become the kind of analogy that we use to help us in our design to curate along this loop journey. So by doing that, we are hoping to use that as a way to strengthen their mental map. At least in their mind, they know, okay, there are some loop around, their buoy leading me to the lighthouse in a more conceptual way. Next is we zoom in into one part. This is the part that we actually do our prototype. It's a stretch between 645 and 646. And there's a lot to unpack just for a small, tight site like this. I don't think I have so much time to go through every one of them, but I want to highlight a few points, right? These are the 2 main anchor destinations, the 2 lighthouses that we identify, and we want to, split up the corridor into a few buoys so that they can always rest here and turn into a social space. And this is the kind of MRT signage that we are hoping to produce in future as a wayfinding feature. So that everybody can read MRT sign, right? So you are heading towards Play Corner, you're heading towards Blue Court, and these are the 2 buoys. Potentially, we can actually insert one more buoy here, maybe next time when we have more resources. right? But what I want to highlight is that we have to really shift our culture or mindset, the perception of the road. It's not just about vehicular efficiency, but it's also about user inclusivity, especially if you want to promote a more aging-friendly town, and to prioritize the vulnerable community, like the example I showed you earlier. So then, let's start with the boy. So this is an example of how we translate the idea, the concept of design thinking approaches or minimalist approach. There are so many things that we need to do at this one boy. First, when you come here, you need to know where you are, right? So you need to have a sign, a simple, clear, large, visible location sign to tell you where you are. Secondly, we want this place to be a social space, so it's not just a place, for you, a signage. You can sit down, relax for a while before you move on, but you also want to give some simple choices. You can either sit facing in or facing out. You want to observe other people, you don't want to talk to other people, you can face out. You want to interact with each other, you can face in. And finally, after you rest, you get out, you want to go, and by the way, this is a grab bar, and you want to see where you want to go. Again, give very simple option. Don't give too many arrows like, in the airport, so many cities they're going. Just give 2 directions, front or back, left or right, so that they know exactly where they're going to. Right? So with that, we combine it into a very simple form that wrap around a column that they can actually hold, sit down, and then, rest and interact. So this is called 645. Okay, why is it called 645? At first, we want to call it a chess corner. But after engagement, the resident feedback to us, nobody called this place chess corner. Everybody identifies 645. So we changed the sign. So that's the power of community engagement. Right? But Tai Hua Guan, everybody called Tai Hua Guan, so we use it. Right? So you can see how the residents, naturally find their place, sit down, relax, talk to each other before they move on. Next example is one of the lighthouse we call Blue Court. Why is it called Blue Court? It's not because we paint it blue, because it was originally a blue court. And everybody identify it as a blue court, so it's very easily remember that it's a blue court. So we formalize it, but we bring in something new. So adaptability is not about familiarity or adaptability is not just about copy the past, but it's about bringing something new at the same time. But at the same time, we want to bring in something that's familiar. So we use the analogy again. How many of you have played this game before? If you are my age or older, right? It's an aeroplane game. It's a chessboard. They come with 4 colors. The objective is to go 1 round and then you go to the middle, you win, right? So we create the similar, kind of a concept. And in fact, many of the residents, when we show them this, they know what it is. And we use these dots as a footpath, as a walking loops that go to 4 different corners where the 4 lampposts is. So it's just nice. We create this lighthouse. And each of these corners will have different activities and to respond to different kind of cognitive as well as a physical exercise. So these are the aerial view. You can see the 4 different corners. We're using yellow as a way to contrast with the blue. So also want to clarify, there's no best color to use. There's no such thing. As long as you can actually create a contrast and it works pleasantly, it works. So we use yellow because zone 9 is painted yellow. So zone 9 is yellow color. So we adopt that color, apply in blue, find the right shade, and then voila, that's how it is. As simple as that. In fact, we also upcycle some of the benches. Why is it that we are using this kind of design? Is because the original bench was this. I can't see it from here. Not this one, but there's a lot of public bench that is made of this perforated metal. So we use the same language, but we transform it into a different way. For example, this table is not just perforated, but it comes with different sizes of the hole, so that the resident can bring down their own potted plants and slot inside the table, so that they will take care of the plants. So we planted a few first, and fortunately, I did until now, after so many months, it's still there. And people are still taking care of that. And this is this rotating wheel that you commonly see in the exercise corner. We add number in because guess what? Seniors like number for some reason, you know. And so with the number, as they turn, the other senior or their kids, can they jump or hop along this loop, and complete the walk? So actually we try to encourage the senior to walk rather than the, the kids. Should be the other way around. So the senior should walk one round every day, right? This is also a familiar toy if for kids. Try to avoid the steel bar. So we create a life-size version. In fact, PM Lee was trying it and he was telling me it was actually quite difficult. Yeah, because it has a certain weight that you try to avoid touching it, right? And also quite interesting, this is one of our participants, a person living in dementia. She thought that this is actually a pull-up bar. And she lifted herself up from the wheelchair. So sometimes, users do something that's really beyond our expectation. But by right, this is more for the wheelchair user to do this. This is also an idea that we learned from AIC. So thanks, a lot of ideas that we share. And of course, the most popular one would be the swing. But we also have one problem with the swing because after 2 weeks, the whole steel bar got banned. Because the kids use it so violently, not violently, but they use it so frequently that the whole thing was banned. I think advisor also shared there's a lot of overuse of this swing, right? So we had to put the dampener, and then there's a lot of things that we learned from here. So this is how it looks like, when it comes. So residents like it very much. If you go down today, now, you'll see a lot of residents. After 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, many of them are doing their round there. The other lighthouse is as an example for incremental change, because by doing that, we can actually adapt to other public spaces by introduce other types of games that seniors and children can enjoy together. For example, this is actually a tic-tac-toe game that we co-created with the children from the preschool that's next door. If you look at that, the zero and the cross is actually made from their milk carton. So all these are made by the children themselves. The floor was also painted by them. So through this co-creation, I think we are able to engage the community and then become part of that placemaking process. But of course, another trade-off that we have to take note of is that it was so popular that this place was vibrant all the way until 12 midnight. So, of course, you get a lot of complaints. But we managed to, maybe later I'll share more about this story. Okay, finally, after we done the board, we realized that based on feedback, we still need more wayfinding markers. So that's how we supplement some of this. So these are some of the wrong example, in fact. We put RC logo. Again, they couldn't understand what is RC logo. So we changed it to RC. Yeah? And also the placement of the signs, this is actually wrong because the person living in dementia will tell us that these 2 signs has to be centralized to the way they approach us. This is a bit too off-center, so they couldn't comprehend whether to turn right or left. That's kind of minute detail that we need to take care of. Okay, I don't have time to go through all the post-implementation review, but I just want to share that after it's implemented, you can see the visitation that's much higher. There are many of them saying very much positive feedback that we gather. But there are also a relatively high of a neutral kind of stand. So we asked why? Why do you think it's neutral? Because many of them are residents of this place, they're already very familiar with public space, right? So to them, it's just, they're so familiar, so it's neutral to them, especially those who are using the space for their Taiji or their Silat, that they feel actually we are taking away their space. So there's one night, I was called by Town Council Lindy. I said, hey, I need you to come down to talk to the Taiji master because they are complaining because we took away their space. So I came down, I talked to the people, and they said, okay, why not I join you one session and see whether it really works or not. So I play and I realized, okay, really it's a little bit cramped. So we feedback to Town Council, we managed to shift everything out a little bit. So these are the prototyping process. But ultimately, they convinced me to join them, so I'm part of the Taiji group now. So you to understand that, you need to infiltrate, right? So that's how, yeah. So that's me. This is the photo taken by Lian Xiaobao. I was doing Tai Chi with them. Anyway, that's what we enjoy. I really want to thank CLC, AIC, and advisor for giving us this opportunity to work together. And my chief researcher, An Ning, she's not here today, but really want to thank her for coordinating the entire process. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kheng Hua. Last but not least, I would like to invite Ms. See Yen Theng to give her presentation.
Thank you so much. I'm mindful of time. My name is Yen Theng. I'm with the Agency for Integrated Care, or AIC. So I think amongst a team, a group of architects and the building specialists, we are the representation from the care sector. So I'm from AIC, and just in short, in case you are not aware, what does AIC do? AIC actually works very closely with the Ministry of Health, MOH, in terms of implementing and developing the elder care, intermediate, long-term care services, for example, like nursing homes, center-based, and home care services. And our division not only look at dementia, but also support for persons with mental health conditions as well. This is some statistics and facts I thought I wanted to share. I think earlier on we did mention that indeed dementia is already on the rise because of the high increased life expectancy as well as the aging population. So 1 in 10 of persons above 60 years old will have dementia, right? And in fact, the numbers by 2030 will increase up to perhaps more than 150,000. So I think this is a bit of an old picture. You see the ex-Minister for Health, Min Gan, as well as our SMS call, highlighting that it's so important for us to be looking at strengthening the care and support structure for persons with dementia. I think this was a study that was done, SMU, as well as Dementia Singapore, which is a social service agency focusing on dementia. I think we must bring up to awareness that when they interviewed people with dementia and caregivers, this is what they found. More than half of persons with dementia actually find that they cannot be, there's stigma. They cannot be open about their condition, neither do their caregivers want to share this condition with others, because people around them actually treat them as less competent. And more than half of them feel that they're not included, they're not part and parcel of this community and neighborhood that we're staying in. But what is heartening and really is that we do find that there are people, the general public, more than 85% say that, well, I don't know, I do want to play a part in terms of contributing and assisting those around me, but it's just that they do not know how to. I thought I'd share also some maybe more sombering thoughts, right? You can see that there are challenges that faced by persons with dementia, people who are missing, some they were reunited with the family and some not. There are those who are misunderstood because they might actually walk into a shop, mama shop, supermarket, get something and step out of the place without paying, and they are sometimes by the shopkeepers arrested, right? The police is called upon them because they've forgotten. Then they have caregivers, and this is Emily, right? And then the whole idea that caregivers do encounter stress and they don't know what to do. So I think this is really calls for a whole of government, whole of society kind of approach. What can we do better to build this dementia-friendly Singapore? Over here, I think all of us, you, me, and can play a part, be as an individual, as an architect and policy owner, as a community. We do play a part in making and supporting someone with dementia in our own networks. I wanted to show this video. I think we should still have time. It's a little aspirational if you look at it, but I think it highlights that all of us can play a part in this building of a dementia-friendly community. So just maybe we can watch this.
Ma, 爸不在啊。
哎呀 you know him 啦 ，every morning 啊，他很早出去的。He bought your 水果 already, but he always like to walk around. OK 啦，exercise is good for him。
我出国读书那么久 ，but I still remembers my favorite 鸡龟。
别了，你吃先 ，I go return something。爸爸很快回来了。Morning Helen。
Auntie，
等下我阿老來，你就咁做做啦嗬。水果四地，香蕉淡薄，
菜包多多啊，Auntie 會記啦，放心。
感謝你嗬。我先行，拜拜，過來啦。Boss，thank you so much。啊，return to you one。
OK。
Here。
No need。
Thank you 啊。
Hello, Auntie Georg. How are you?
Hello, Kairu. Hello, Clarence. Good. I'm fine.
Don't worry. If we see him, we'll take him home.
Thank you.
Auntie Georg, what are you doing here?
在等你咯。你现在乖不乖
Of course, good lah.
I got something to tell you. If you see Uncle Tan around here, make sure you tell him which floor he stay. Okay?
I will. I promise you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. 很高兴你回来了。
哎，爸。
Kairu, thank you so much. I say trouble you again.
Auntie, no problem. Mr. Tang was just wandering downstairs, so we thought we'd bring him out.
Thank you.
他是谁？
他是你儿子，阿Hsien。他回来了。
Ma, what happened to Pa? How long already? Why you never tell me?
It's dementia，已经6个月了。幸好到处有朋友照顾他。
你是否独自在黑暗？
Papa is still the same, just that he's living in a world of his own. We have to reach out to him.
不停地回头，街道失去街灯的线索，每一扇门都是一道迷宫。那个名字属于
Auntie Helen，
你好。
等一下爸来吼，一样的 order，OK？
4个追柜，菜谱多多，辣椒少少，对吗？
谢谢。
过1秒钟，竟变成照片里陌生的面孔。请你跟着我，点亮夜空的灯火，让星光指引我们回到分岔的路口，牵着我的手，像你当时牵着我，从此起不再被时间偷走，存在进我的手中，不再流动。
Was done by Lian Foundation when we earlier started off this whole journey together with Khoo Teck Puat Hospital. I think the concept of the dementia-friendly community was very unheard of. It was already in place probably in Australia, UK, Japan, and Taiwan. But in Singapore, it's still seen as dementia is still seen as a very medical condition, right? You leave it to the hospitals for someone to look at it, but not so much as how do we empower people within the neighborhood to do something to assist someone with that. I think that's exactly the whole mindset that we felt was very important, to go beyond just the health and social care. Can we rally the support of the community, neighbors around to play a part? Earlier on, when you see the video, the 3-grade auntie, just to share, is real. Okay, so it's not a actor or whatsoever. When we piloted this whole concept of the DFC, Chong Pang was one of the earlier ones that we worked on to actually increase awareness among the police officers as well as the hawkers. So we've seen some good outcome based on that. So with that in place, then AIC and MOH started the dementia-friendly community, and to date, we have 16 of those, and we are happy that Yio Chu Kang is one of those as well, and we have taken it, of course, much further to include other elements such as the dementia-friendly design principles. So with that learnings and the traction on the ground, we, AIC, worked on developing and evolving it into a national movement. So in 2022, we launched the first inaugural campaign to rally Singaporeans. I think the whole highlight that time that really spoke to me is that we were mindful not to just keep reminding ourselves that this is a hospital thing, it's a GP thing, but rather what is the profile of dementia friends and how they can play a part. So, we were very thankful and glad that we have made good rapport and support, right, with both SMRT as well as the supermarkets, because these are common touch points in the neighborhood that someone, when they are living at home, right, they will definitely visit. 6th of Jan, just, it felt like forever, right? It's just end of January, but we launched, and President was there, we launched exhibition at the National Museum. And this time round, the focus was on intergeneration as well as what can youth and families play a part? Because I think it's about mindset shift. How do we actually influence from the young? So the exhibition is still there up till end of March. So any of you is complimentary, can just go to the National Museum on the 2nd level. And one thing that really struck people were the involvement of the youth. And we were very glad to have this very young caregivers. His name is William. He started caregiving for his mom who had young onset dementia. And he started when he was only 19. Right now he's 21 and going to the university. He shared his experience, and a lot of people among the audience were very moved, right, by his sharing and his dedication. Maybe just to share a little bit more, what does AIC do? We work very closely with our community partners, which are social service agencies on the ground, to run awareness outreach teams whereby they actually conduct outreach, conduct early identification. Why? Because if we can identify persons with dementia early, then we can link them up to the healthcare as well as dementia care services earlier. So that's the whole idea. And the outreach is not just purely to the residents, but we outreach to faith-based groups, merchants, schools, and government agencies as well. Caregiver support, I think I can't speak enough. We know that for a person with dementia, the caregiver and the unit around them is very, very important. So with that, I think we have identified that it's a very key component of dementia-friendly community. And one good example that I wanted to share is this Queenstown Caregiver Connect that was actually done and started by Fei Yue, which is a social service agency. So they started off having a peer-led group, and over the past few years, it has grown from 20 to more than 100 people, right, to actually to be benefiting from it. And the other thing I wanted to highlight, so as you are commuting around in Singapore, also to maybe look out for these dementia go-to points around Singapore, which are meant to offer more timely assistance in the community. The whole idea is to serve as a safe return point, whereby if someone come across someone who might be wandering, missing, lost, they can bring to this go-to points, and the center staff will actually provide assistance. Secondly, of course, it aims to also be a resource center, right? So that people can find information, resources for caregivers, and who can link them up to services as well. So it's not only at healthcare institutions, but it's also at some of the community centers, RCs, GP clinics, and so on and so forth. And we're very glad that SMRT is a very big partner in this, and they have in all of their MRT stations such go-to points, and their staff are being trained. So you look out for our sign by this, our mascot called Jiffy. Okay. I thought I'll just switch gear and share about how AIC started on this whole journey of looking at dementia-friendly design. We started off, obviously, because we are looking at care and support, we started off with the community care facilities. So we looked at nursing homes as a start, looking at how do we incorporate cluster living concept into the nursing home so that it's more home-like and welcoming, right, to persons with dementia. And we worked on this environmental toolkit that is targeting indoor spaces and care facilities. But we know that beyond the care facilities, it's important to expand our reach. And that's when I met Elaine. And when we spoke, we felt that it was so important to extend it to the neighborhood. So the whole idea is that can we have built environment and infrastructure in the neighborhood that enables and empowers persons with dementia to live well? Earlier, I mean, I'm among architects here, but I thought I'd perhaps just highlight that what we have learned is that while there's universal design that is suitable for all ages, the age-friendly design then will look primarily at accessibility and barrier-free. But for dementia-friendly design, the added consideration to support persons who may have cognitive deficit is to help in accessibility and wayfinding, as well as having the sensory stimulation, be it reducing or not, right? So this is how we have been looking at. But we know that infrastructure on its own is important, but it's not the end. We had earlier efforts, right, that is put up here. There are some good points, there are some learning points. And when we worked with CLC as SUTD, we decided that I think it's important for us, instead of these multiple pilots that we're working on it, shall we then look at one that is a national one that actually have a localized evidence and focusing on a high-rise building, the very unique building setup in Singapore. And that's how we got started, right, on this. And the end product, right, was these two publications that is being published. One is a research report that focused very much, right, on the learnings of Yio Chu Kang. What are the key learning points? The other one is the dementia-friendly guide that actually spells out the design principles. And I'm very glad you can see the two big men there. We have both the Minister of MND as well as Health Minister, because it signifies that dementia is not a health only, but how can the building sector and the healthcare sector come together to support this very important group of people. This is my second last slide. I thought I just want to reiterate the importance of integrating the hardware, which is the programming and the services, together with the infrastructure. So if you were to look at it, if it would just be a prototype, a space, if there's no one using it. So we were very glad, and we worked closely with our partners, Tai Hwa Kwan and AWA, whereby they are active aging centers, in case you're not aware. So their care staff tailored activities using these prototypes so they can run programs using the prototypes. And they enjoy it very much. Earlier, Keng Hwa mentioned about the pots and all. I think then NParks, what they did is that they teach residents how to do the pottery. So it's a way of meaningful engagement that taps and leverages on the design prototypes that we have come up together with. I also want to encourage and let you all know that we have worked also on having e-learning modules, right, focusing on designs which will be applicable to any designers and architects. So please do look out for this. And last but not least, just now we mentioned about the neighborhood design. How about the in-house design? Because when we worked with occupational therapists, the home environment is just as important because where they maybe tendency of falling and all. So we came up with this VR guide, this HDB home design guide that's helpful for caregivers as well as therapists to run through the home environment to look at where are the maybe areas that we must be looking out for to improve safety as well as enabling them to live more independently. So please do take a look, and it's on the HDB website as well. The other longer term plan that we have is that it is not just a drawer resource. That is the last thing that CLC and AIC and SUTD want it to be. Our idea is that how do we incorporate it into existing environmental tool which actually incorporates both age-friendly and dementia-friendly design principles so that be it town council or RCs, the grassroots leaders, they can then use it to do their community improvement work and identify areas that they can modify and upgrade. I thought maybe just to end off with this particular slide that I echo what both advisor and Kheng Hua mentioned, right? That it cannot be done by either sector alone. There is many partners that needs to put in place. We need like-minded partners with clear shared goal. For example, like community partners like Tai Hwa Kwan and AWA, they need to drive all these services and programs. We need grassroots advisors who are clear advocates and lend their weight behind it. And for us, at national level, be it CLC or AIC, how do we form more strategic partnerships, right, to influence policy formulation, so on and so forth. And of course, AIC, we are glad that this Dementia-Friendly Singapore movement has gained a lot of traction, be it in the building sector or even in the transport sector. So we hope to actually move into the financial sector soon. Yeah, that's our next goal. I think some of us may be caregivers ourselves. We may know of someone who may have dementia. So I put in here also resources that can be helpful for caregiving as well as dementia. And this one is a collaboration with our GovTech colleagues to have this care service recommender. So thank you very much, and I think welcome any questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Yen Theng. Now that we have heard presentations from all three speakers, the audience will now have a chance to pose questions to the panel. And we know that in the publicity, we did say that the lecture will end at 4:30, but we are now extending it to 4:45 because we feel that it is useful and valuable to have these conversations since everyone is here in person. So we do hope that you can still stay the extra 15 minutes and actively participate in the Q&A. And during the Q&A later, we'll appreciate if you can please state your name and organization before asking questions or making comments. You can also raise your hand and our staff will walk to you with the handheld mics. So with that, may I now invite all our speakers on stage and our moderator Elaine for the panel discussion and the Q&A session.
Can we? Yeah. All right. Thank you so much to our speakers for taking time to be with us here today. I mean, just a quick summary, just to recap very quickly, is that I think it was very important for us to hear from advisor himself, the realities on the ground that some of us may not be aware of because of his work and been very close to the ground, on the needs that are on the ground. And I think it was also very useful then Yen Theng shared that it's true, it is not just about the hardware or the software, but it's about these two coming together to complement so that you sync up with fuller synergy to support those people in our community. I think Prof himself has also shared, very importantly, the methodology of this. So if you're asking whether from this research, do we have to replicate or exactly the same things that you see here? No, it's not true. In fact, what he is saying is that there are several design processes here. It's not just about the design as a designer, but it's also the designing of the engagement process that's very important so that you can have the interventions that clearly will support the people directly because this is their ask. Right, so with that, I'd like to ask if there are any questions. Oh, great, John. Okay, John, second row. exercise for you, John.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. Yeah. Thank you very much. It's a very exhilarating expose of what you're trying to do, which should have been done earlier, I suppose, but better late than never. I would like to pose 3 little questions to the 3 panelists, if I may. Yeah? We start with the advisor. Is there any plan for any SIRS in Yio Chu Kang? Because you mentioned they are from the 74.
Okay, John. A dementia-related question.
No, it's related because I remember when HCB started en bloc, it hit a brick wall, okay? Groundswell against it. Then the advisor went down to find out that something wrong with that plan because it was not age-friendly. So HCB quickly revamped and rebranded to be SIRS. I think advisor will know what I'm talking about. There's something embedded in the, which means it's sensitive to the elderly people, right? So I'm just wondering if you have any plan, make sure you're very sensitive to your senior citizen, right? My second question to Kheng is that you say just something simple. I'm not so sure. Because I see a lot of images that you presented, which we discovered when we were commissioned by MND and MOH to study age-friendly neighborhood in 2018. And it was led by LKYCIC, Belinda, you know, right? So my experience with nursing home and elder care in Canada, way before some of you were born, was that the principal approach should be simplicity. Not simpleness, but simplicity and clarity, okay? Because old people associate things that they can associate from the old memory, right? And I remember I visited the St. Andrew Nursing Home many years ago, and there's a very interesting ward in there. And there's one little corner, they have recreated a typical HDB apartment, okay? And everything in that little space brings you back to the 1970s. From the furniture, the fitting, the utensils, and the pictures and the paraphernalia on the wall. So the idea is that to bring the older people into a space, the memorial space that they can trigger the old memory and say, I'm home. I'm in my kitchen now, in my dining room, and my living room, right? So I think, I just want to know whether you may be going a bit too far architectonic with your very super graphics and, right? Because in all your urban furniture, the best one that I think the old people, young people, multi-generations relate to is a swing. That's why it's heavily used, you see. And my third question to the third panelist is that, does AIC have any conversation with our digital geeks in the Gulf Tech? Because they seem to be divergent between what you're trying to do and what the technical people are trying to do, the digital people. Because I had 2 experiences, December last year and recently this year. The digital people are so ahead that they are losing everybody who are going into their 65 and above, right? So if anything, please have a chat with our digital boys. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So maybe if I can just reiterate John's question, I think to advisor is how age-friendly is the current state of your estate and what are you doing to maybe improve it? Maybe to Kheng Hoa is the architecture and design aspect. What exactly is simplicity versus clarity? And for Yen Theng, it's about the digital divide, right? How do we close that? So if I got that right, yeah, please go
I
ahead.
think the question posed to me is a very simple one. Answer is I don't know. I don't know, because your question about SIRS, right? Whether any blocks in my estate is undergoing SIRS, I wouldn't know. FYI, because I was in MND before, the minister, who's the current minister is Desmond Lee. He will usually keep this information very, very tight because they are market-sensitive information. So he, in fact, 99% of the rest of MND will not know as well. And he will announce it at the very last moment so that people won't be able to make any decision that may distort the market. I wouldn't know. And not only me, but if you ask any of the other advisors, they also would know. Yeah, whether there'll be SIRS in the area, in their estate. My area is very old. What I usually speak, or when I speak to my residents, what I tell them is this. It's a very old estate. I cannot promise you that we will have anything iconic, like huge water fountain or I don't know what else do people want. I can't promise that. But what I can promise is that the place is safe. Safety, the place is safe, the place is accessible. My vision is that I can get from one place in Yio Chu Kang to the other end of Yio Chu Kang in a wheelchair without any difficulty. I want every block to have a rain shelter and drop-off point for every single block. Okay, today I am not there yet because all this requires funds. It requires money, and the money is not my money. It's not the government money. Government money is all your money. It all comes from you, from your taxes, from your GST, etc., etc. So we need to prioritize what we do on the ground. As far as possible, we will want to make sure that we make use of all our money in the most judicious way. So that is what I promise. I do not know where will be the next SIRS, but rest assured we'll do our best to make sure that the estate is safe and accessible.
All right. Thanks, Advisor. Thanks, John, for the question. A very difficult question, and you actually asked to you really bring out the awkwardness and also the difficulty that we face in our design, because as a designer, we want to see how we can actually, transfer our knowledge from our training into this new kind of opportunity and space. But on the other hand, we understand that we need to have a certain kind of familiarity and setting so that everyone know what to do. So trust me, this is actually 100 times diluted version of our first design, which is much more complicated. You can ask Elaine and Yen Theng. Yeah, so, and it's a very humbling process, I think, for designer to be able to really let go a lot of things. So what you see as an outcome, in fact, we have no aesthetics goal in mind or form or space, nothing at all. It is purely a translation of what is needed on the ground, and in this simplest form. I would say that there is a very blurred boundary between simplicity and simplicity and simple, right? We don't want to be simple-minded because that will be very demeaning for ourselves and for our users. It's not about making it like so, idiot-proof. It's not about that. It's about appreciation of the simple things in life, that they're able to enjoy the moments when they sit down, what they see. In fact, actually a lot of discussion that we have is about view. You don't even see it here. It's about when they sit here, what do they see? When they sit there, what do they see? So in the end, a circular seat it just makes sense because they give them a lot of choices to see different things. And then the two-sided, whether you sit inside or outside, in fact, we are so particular about dimension to have a wheelchair that parked there exactly at the gap. It was so, basically in the end, it's all functional and yet able to appreciate by everybody. So that was the kind of take that we take. So don't take this design as it is, because I don't think this can be just copy and paste in anywhere. Because I would urge, like what Elaine say, it's a process that counts. Take our process, go and do your own community engagement, go and do your own kind of new methods to understand the ground and translate it into your own design. I think that will be the best way to fit the user needs.
Okay, now over to me. So John asked about technology and whether is relevant to our group of users as well. So certainly I think when we work on, for example, I guess you were referring to the care service recommender that we work with GovTech to do. The target audience was quite clear. It was the working adult caregivers, to enable them to look for schemes and resources in a more simplified way and taking into consideration their lifestyle. So the target audience was quite clear. We were not looking at persons with dementia or the older population using that particular things. So hence a result, we have array of resources. It can be the paper ones, the brochure. In fact, I brought some because I thought some people might be interested to get the hard copy version. And for others who are like me, strapped of time, then the digital form comes into play. I think you brought out another important point is that as we build, we cannot be just creating solutions for now. We have to be doing future proving as well. So be it whether on the flat we are maybe creating certain colors or putting some mural, it's not the now and here, right? The group is allowing the residents to grow old in that place and familiarizing themselves with that. So that is the whole concept that we're having. So mindful of that we need to know what is now and what is future proving. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, yes, there's already one from you, Tika.
Hi, Elaine. Can you hear me? I'm not directly a PL provider, but actually I live with an auntie in advanced dementia and architect. My name is Yuki. I like the Kheng, I like the idea of the lighthouse and the buoy, which is anchoring the destination and direction. Is it possible to even trajectory to a harbor, a landing dock? Because I think, a harbor to me is a place that you arrive, you meet strangers, you meet up with old friends, and I see that in the video, the sense of relief when you see your father playing with his friends. So a harbor is like a place where the chance happening could be done. And I look at what See Yen said about the 16 dementia-friendly constituent. Maybe we can escalate this to be a family of harbors within the whole Singapore, just like the park connectors. So I think in that sense, you can create identity within the different constituents, because every constituent has different dementia challenges, right? Some are more young, some are older, and you may even consider younger neighborhoods like Seng Kang, where 10 years from now, it could be a dementia needed society. And that is a good learning point where you grow old with a person, and how you then, like you said, one day you grow old. And to me, it's a process, just like your circulation. It's a process. I think we need to scale it up. Don't stop here, but think of this place as a harbor. A harbor is a safe haven. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. That's a good one.
Thank you, Yuki.
And the question,
Yeah. In fact, I just shared with Elaine and Adib last week, after the post-implementation review, there are 5 points of recommendation. One of them is about harbor. So you really read my mind. Yeah, so it's really to expand that analogy, to look at, because when we're done, after we've done Lighthouse and the buoy, we realize there's something that's still missing. You go to Lighthouse, then you do what, right? In fact, in the actual sense, the lighthouse is not supposed to be a destination. The lighthouse is to lead the ship to the harbor, right? So what is the harbor? Yeah, landing dock, right? Yeah, exactly. So that is something that we are still exploring. How can we expand that kind of scope and see how can it be even more holistic? And I think, back to Yen Theng's point, it's not just about the hardware of the design, it's also how all the different service provider, the stakeholder can come in to sort of complement it with the hardware to really come together as the kind of harbor analogy.
Maybe Yen Theng, would you like to respond to that, about the idea about the software being very important as a landing point as well? I mean, currently they have go-to points. or now the NTUC and Sheng Siong been that sort of landing point? Do we use the existing one, or do we need to redesign a harbour, you know?
Perhaps for me, if I can be very open, I don't think whether is it a lighthouse or a harbour, it really matters. I think what matters on the ground is that when I go there, I get the experience that I expect to have. Yeah, being very practical. So existingly, I think instead of, land is scarce, void deck space, advisor will know this very well. Everybody want a piece of the void deck space. Where do we get those? So the approach that we are doing is that can we leverage on existing accessible points, be it the RC, because if I'm a resident, I'm familiar. The CC, I'm familiar with it. GP points are also destination point and supermarkets. So we have adopted a very practical approach rather than creating more points that for a person with dementia or even the resident, then they will ask, advisor, where is this new point you want me to go? So I guess, I think where possible, if we can, the idea is to leverage on existing accessible points that people are familiar with and build it up, resource them, or build up competency or capability and the awareness. Because what I'm reflecting, myself, my team are reflecting on the go-to points. We are celebrating, we have so many go-to points, but if I ask a poll here, how many of us know where these go-to points are? No. I think there's the awareness that we can continue to enhance, and this is what we are working on. So the plan for the upcoming year is to increase awareness, strengthen what we have started out to do. I think that's our focus. Thanks.
And I think maybe to extrapolate on what you just mentioned about the landing point. I mean, advisor, you are very close to the ground. We know that we see you walk, and you're all walking the ground. You're always with us when we're doing anything. Do you see where are the safe landing points in the neighborhood now for your residents? Do they already exist? Do they need to be created? You feel, are there gaps where we can create them, or there are already those points?
I think Yen Theng is right. The estate, the environment is a very organic one. So there are natural places where people do congregate and people do gather. And I think the best way is to encourage the owners of these places, those who are there, to perhaps open up as a go-to point rather than create new ones. Because by creating new ones, you may not be familiar, and it may be a place where it's very unnatural. So I will encourage us to always make use of what's already available, and then through that process itself also be able to strengthen the neighborhood bonds as well. Yeah.
I think that's a good point, because when Kheng started his project, he chose to design the blue court, not because our vanity said, oh, this must be that blue court. But rather he realized that it was already an existing place where the Tai Chi people are. There are young people who are hanging out there playing, and older folks just sitting around. And so that itself was an identifiable and familiar spot. And what he did was to go in and enhance that. And right now, because that blue court is situated next to a rental block, right? So you would think that only people living in the vicinity would be there. But after the design has been done, and when the rain has already cleared, so over the last weekend I went down, I saw a lot of people there. And actually some of them came as far as like 5 blocks away across the road, So it does bring the community together. And there was an Akong who even brought this small car for his grandson to drive around. So maybe another noise issue there. But yeah, so I think that's a valid point. I think we should extend that concept further. And I think we also have heard some views of the realities on the ground, how we can do that very efficiently, optimally. Are there any more questions? Oh yeah, okay, we have one question there, and the lady there has one question. So maybe we can hear both of you, then we can maybe combine and take those questions. Yeah, okay.
Hi, my name is Chen. I'm from Smart Cities Network. I have been a volunteer for the Sri Narayana Mission Nursing Home. We are in the midst to create the first smart nursing home in Singapore, available in 2026 at Yishun. And one of our objectives is, two objectives, community outreach and to do smart facility management. So my question is maybe for Yen Theng. how do we leverage off the possible integrated operations center, command center in the new nursing center at nursing home at Riverwalk to do a community outreach for dementia-friendly Yishun? Thank you.
In fact, thank you for raising that. I was just at Sri last Saturday because we are starting a night respite program at the nursing home. And I must, this is so coincidental. I just received a text from the CE earlier. In fact, the Sri Narayana is the first nursing home who put up the hand to say, I want to be a dementia go-to point because I'm already well situated in the Yishun area. I have staff that is 24/7. And I must kudos to them. He, without any funding, he put up his own signage outside with lighted to say, I am a dementia go-to point, come to me. So I guess what you're highlighting is that there are natural community assets, right, that are already well placed and resourced to do some of this dementia-related work, and we do work very closely with them. So certainly with Dave and the team, we are looking at how do we enhance support structure for residents within the Yishun area with even services like what I mentioned earlier, like the night respite. So these are all things that are ongoing. And for AIC, we are not able to create many nodes, right? I think our strategy has always been to leverage on existing good partners who are willing to experiment and try out. Yeah. If there are any maybe more innovative ideas that you have in mind, I'm very happy to connect with you after this. Thanks.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity. Yes, our lady over there.
Hi, I'm Xiaoqi from HDB. Thank you for the very insightful sharing. We certainly learn a lot from this. So I just have two simple questions. The first one is, we understand that Yio Chu Kang have already zoned the different block in colors, right? Now the people with dementia, they easily can go to this zone of their block. So is there any plan for them to assist them from the zone to narrow down to their block? Is it any wayfinding guide or any plan to do that? Then the other question is a very practical question. So, as in after 7 or 8 years, the blocks will normally get repainted. Now, if I live in this yellow block and I remember it, so after 7 years, will it be painted another color? And do I have I ask this because we also got this question from people, so we want to learn from you as well. Yeah. Thank you.
Great question. Maybe I should. So the first question is, one zone is about 10 blocks, more or less there, and I think the lady is asking whether are we going to do more to make sure that within the zone they can go to the particular block. That's a good question, and I mean, just share very frankly, there's some internal discussion within my team about it. One idea is maybe every block I draw something. I put one picture there, that every single block. That means I have 69 blocks. That means I will draw 69 pictures. But that will, I talk very close. I have very close communication with AIC. The advice from the experts say no, don't do that because it is really quite overwhelming for someone with dementia. So maybe one option is to make sure that the signages remain very visible, very big, and to make sure that these signages, the numbers, all that are visible across, rather than have too many visual big queues around the estate. Then your second question is about whether after 5 to 7 years we do a refresh of the colors, right? So the cheeky answer is I don't know because I may not be the MP there after. Okay, if I'm the MP there, I will make sure that at least let's say if it's in a certain color, we will steer the choosing of the colors to certain shades of the same color. So that, as you rightly mentioned, if we every 5 to 7 years we totally redo the zoning and the colors and all that, it can be quite difficult for a person with dementia to recognize the area.
Kheng, would you like to also share from
actually these are the questions that we have been discussing all this while in the past 1-2 years. One thing, you're right that the scalability of the design is actually something that we also talk about. One of the recommendation that we are suggesting is that instead of doing like 69 different mural, why not we work with the stakeholder on the ground, Tai Hwa Guan, to say that, okay, the boy that outside, in fact, there was one idea very nice. The column is actually, quite free now because it's just the furniture around the column. What can we do together with the seniors to sort of, come up with their own kind of artistic interpretation of their design around the column and then own it. They keep it as it is. And then people around the block will know that this is done by our seniors downstairs. And that will become a very significant marker because this is done by them and then they are able to represent that.
If I'm allowed just 2 minutes to perhaps elaborate. In the event that we walk out of this room thinking that persons with dementia love icons, colors, maybe back to the principle about why are we looking at wayfinding to use colors or big font size? Because when a person has dementia, the cognitive and spatial orientation is affected, of course to varying degree among the different persons with dementia. So hence, some may relate better to numbers, some relate better to colors, and some relate better to patterns or icons. So by, like what advisor mentioned, out of a zone of 69, the whole idea is to cluster them into smaller, more navigatable, I don't know what is that word, a precinct, a cluster, rather than you had to feel that I'm in a block of 69, I don't know where it is. So by clustering it, be it 5 to 10, I think it's more manageable. And when they are closer to their home, because besides the block color, there are other cues along the way where they are staying in, that will also help to enhance their wayfinding. So I don't think we should take the idea to go to the extreme, because one day we'll run out of icons. There's only how many Nyonya Kueh we have, or trees, right? So
please don't do that.
Yeah, correct. And it's overstimulating. I think the principle is about understanding about more manageable sizing and clustering, and then having different cues, because once I'm near the block, the area, the block number ultimately, to be honest, will be the one. Yeah. If not, they are already among maybe neighbors who might know them. So I think that's why it's so important that the infrastructure is not the be-all, end-all, but the neighborhood that we saw in the video is the whole concept of people extending a helping hand. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Yen Theng. Just in case all of you here sitting here are wondering, so where are the guidelines, where are the accessibility codes, Not to despair, you can either read 2 of our books that Yen Theng, everybody shared earlier. One is on the design, participatory process, the design of that, and also the principles. But if you're talking about, these are the 2 books, feel free to read them, and then those are on the design guide. But the next step for us, this is only just the beginning. With this understanding and insights from localized evidence, we are going to work next with BCA to develop a new chapter in the Universal Design Guide. So, Aka datang, and we are also now talking about inserting a few key things into the accessibility code. And we're not going to include everything because we know that means more stuff for you, architects and QPs to sign off. But we will be very selective, and there will be a continuous engagement process, and this time with the design professionals yourself. So just watch out for the further details. So if that's the next bound from this project, what do you think is the next bound for you in terms of AIC's work, in Yio Chu Kang and for the work that you're doing in Seoul?
I think maybe I start. So we are definitely interested in scaling in more areas. So there is a Age Well national initiatives, and one key pillar is about age-friendly neighborhoods. So we are working closely to want to actually incorporate this Dementia-Friendly Design Guide into the consideration for those selected precincts so that we can scale beyond Yio Chu Kang. Secondly, earlier I mentioned about the environmental toolkit, because it has age-friendly principles, is now to add on, again, not being excessive, to include key elements of dementia-friendly design principles into it, so that as a ground staff, town council, you refer to one rather than having many guides that we need to refer to. So that's what our aspiration is, to scale.
I think on the ground, I think we've been doing a lot of, and focusing a lot on infrastructure, a lot of enhancements, dementia-friendly enhancements and all that. I think the next step is, can we bring in more software services, interesting new services that will benefit our seniors, as well as our dementia residents that can benefit them. So I can't mention any of these, but we want to pilot new services within the estate itself. Yeah.
Okay, if you ask me personally, I'd like to have an open call. Who would like to, I mean, if there's any medical professional, like to work with me on the long-term evaluation of whether or not such design actually, benefit the not just person living with dementia, but also other seniors. Are more than happy to look at how do we look at that as one, longer-term kind of process or project. Another one is that how can we apply in the different estates, maybe with the different characters, different density, and all that. I'll be very, very, curious and also very interested to see how we can adapt into a different environment as well. So if there is, other grassroots advisor, you are watching this, we can discuss.
Thank you so much, and I know we have overshot a bit of the time, but please join me to thank all our speakers, yes. And I'd like to thank all of you, and this will be uploaded onto our YouTube channel, and I'd like to end by saying that I'd like to thank my team, Ren Ai, Adib, Stewart, and Dee for helping on this session. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Thank you. Can I just ask the speakers to stay on stage? And I would like to invite our ED CLC on stage as well to present some tokens of appreciation to our speakers and also for a time of photo taking. And for the audience, we'd appreciate if you could scan the QR code. Scan a QR code that I'll be flashing later so that you can provide your feedback to us.